It's our last show of the week. Your weekend can officially begin. Now, I'm watching vigilante billionaire fighter Bernie Sanders go from popular socialist outlier to worshipped demigod as his chances of becoming the next president start to dwindle. Now, as he loses grasp of the nomination, his devout followers further lose their grasp on reality, and instead of giving into political depression as the certainty of a Clinton presidency looms, they are embracing Sanders as a cult icon, their lust preserving him in the unrequited nectar of what could have been. Now, this week, a group of diehard Bernie supporters put together a piece of cheerful propaganda for their doomed icon. Let's go to the FBN newsroom for this special report.
I also have to warn you as we begin this special report that what you're about to see almost defies description, and some of you may not want to watch it.
Bernie, Bernie, Bernie Sanders is the name that you ought to know when you cast your vote at the polls. And as you close the curtain, you know for certain his name will be there.
No. Bernie Sanders supporters released this bizarre video in their pinko frenzy for America's favorite socialist, and the video is a perfect metaphor for Sanders' campaign, out of tune and populated by naive emotionalists covered in a musky funk that gives rational outsiders that not-so-fresh feeling. For further reaction to the video from the establishment left. Let's turn to our current Secretary of State and ketchup expert John Kerry and his boss for their reaction.
It's clear to me that what's happening is an embarrassment to our country.
I was going to call it carnival atmosphere, but that implies fun.
No, it's no fun getting caught up in the rusty cog of socialism. Just ask the tens of millions of victims of the Chinese and Soviet revolutions who didn't drink the Kool-Aid. Oh, wait, you can't. Yeah, because they're dead. Now, I understand the lazy idealism that comes with getting wrapped up in someone as electrifying as Bernie Sanders. He tells you how bad your life is and then promises you a litany of free stuff he'll never be able to deliver to make it better. It's like hiring a personal trainer who tells you how fat you are, how you're going to be consumed by your own folds and die of a heart attack in 6 months, all while feeding you Twinkies on the treadmill. As Bernie becomes less of an electoral threat, he will be canonized and elevated by his rabid fans who take some morbid pleasure in backing an idealist whose economic extremism will never become a reality. One tear. On the show tonight, Donald Trump makes some controversial statements about abortion and then walks them back, controversially. The FBI cracked an iPhone used by a San Bernardino shooter, and now they're cracking a smartphone in Arkansas. Is it encryption dead and buried? Nick Gillespie joins me to weigh in on that, and I'm going to sort through the letters, gifts, and inappropriate amount of underwear some of you keep sending me. Is that a message? Tonight it's viewer mail nights. Glad you're here for it. I'm Kennedy. You better believe we have a brand new Fox Business poll about the state of Wisconsin. It just came out. Ooh, bad news for Hillary Clinton. Maybe I spoke too soon about Bernie. His chances at the nomination may be slim, but he's 5 points ahead of her in the Badger State. All this as Hillary's email scandal looms overhead. And guess who we've got to talk about it tonight? On the party panel, it's Ben Domenech, the Federalist publisher. Katie McFarland is here, Fox News national security analyst. And Michael Malice rounds out the panel, author of Dear Reader by his book now. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
So crazy things happening in these polls. Let's get to the heart of Wisconsin. Is this bad news for Hillary Clinton being 5 points behind Bernie?
It is bad news for Hillary Clinton. She has a situation there where she is looking at a map that looks ahead to a lot of states that are going to be good for Bernie Sanders in a lot of different ways. And because they've already finished out most of the red states in the country, most of the states that she had a lot of African-American support.
For firewalls and whatnot?
Exactly. It's now at a point where Sanders is going to continue to win. And as he goes along, it's just going to be an expression of how frustrated Democratic voters really are that they even have to make this choice. They would rather be with, their heart really wants to be with Bernie Sanders and the kind of economic socialism that he's promising, but they have a situation with the superdelegates where Hillary has an enormous advantage given the system that they have set up.
She does. When did the superdelegates bleed over to Bernie? Does that ever happen, or does she just have it locked up and this is meaningless?
It happened with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
But what happens, though, if Hillary is indicted?
I don't think Bernie gets a nomination even then. I really don't. I think he's considered to be so extreme by that establishment left that they find a way to do exactly what the Republican Party is trying to do right now with Trump. And you know, the super delegates very different than the uncommitted delegates on the Republican side, obviously, and a lot of those people aren't going to shift their vote to Bernie, you know, where they could have in the first place. Is Bernie Sanders the cult figure that I've made him out to be?
I don't think he is. I think both front runners in both parties right now are cult figures. Hillary Clinton, very much with her mouse suits, is coming off as a cult of personality figures. The only people who follow her are these insane loyalists who see no evil, hear no evil, or speak no evil about her. And on the other hand, you have
the Jacobins.
Yes, so to speak, the sans-culottes. And on the other hand, you have Trump, who has built, you know, this God Emperor cult likes we haven't seen since, you know, Wendell Willkie in 1940.
It's really interesting because I was going over some material from Rick Ross, who is the cult expert, not the rapper, although I'm sure, you know, he's culty in and of his own right. And it's funny because if you go down the checklist of what makes a cult leader, Donald Trump is actually closer to a cult leader based on how his followers are. The one thing that I would say about Hillary's cult is that is manufactured by her, whereas Bernie's, like, he is truly elevated by people who
Well, so is Trump, and I think a cult is just like kind of a movement that's unpopular with the establishment by definition, right?
Yeah. How does this end on the Democratic side?
You mean as far as the cult and Hillary? I think the big question is what happens with her and the FBI.
Yeah.
You know, I think there are three scenarios that we're looking at. One, the FBI sends its report to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department decides it's going to prosecute. Bad for Hillary. The FBI sends its report to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department says, nothing much here. Let's all look the other way. At which point you could have a Saturday night-like massacre where the head of the FBI could resign, a number of senior FBI officials, and the 150 FBI agents who are working on this all go and leak. I mean, the third is that Obama pardons everybody.
I mean, that would be the most unfortunate, and that would be such a lack of justice in this country.
Yes,
that if
absolutely.
if you want to thrust the revolution in a quicker fashion, as Susan Sarandon does, that's all you have to do.
I'll just say, though, that if you're going to make a distinction between these cults, I have to say that Bernie Sanders has much better memes, much better swag. I actually had a guest who on my radio show this past week who's a big fan of Bernie Sanders, Cassandra Fairbanks, and she made these leggings that have Bernie Sanders' face all over them. You can actually buy them online today, and they're quite popular among his set. So his swag is definitely much better than Hillary's.
As the only troll on this panel, I think I can speak on memes, and Donald Trump has been crowned the king of 4chan's poll board, where they refer to him as God Emperor every day. So if you want to see some really good memes,
some of the Donald memes, they are extraordinary. I mean, my favorite, of course, were the Jeb Bush ones, but
what about when he's pointing the car at the viewer and says, "Get in the car, we're making America great again"?
Yes.
All right. Well, please don't miss the live FBN coverage of the Wisconsin primary. It's happening next Tuesday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will be joining Neil Cavuto that night. And coming up, we're going to dig more into that brand new Fox Business poll about the GOP race in Wisconsin. Hitting the other side. It's bad news for Trump as his controversial abortion comments linger on. Please stay tuned for that. And a little later, I'm going to show you a special sneak peek of the Stossel Libertarian presidential debate. Oh, babe, it's going to be a busy night. Stay right here.